欢迎收看今天的《文茜世界周报》。虽然许多人知道美国呢最终会妥协，但是也没有想到拖到这个时刻才慢慢的结束。最后，美国债线的危机到目前为止呢是10月13号，美国的国债到期日是10月17号。如果没有办法偿付的话，没有提高债线，最终美国违约的话，它形成的情况，《华尔街日报》的字眼是，它的债务上限之争对全球经济的冲击是无法量化。只能说这个冲击会非常非常的大。股神巴菲特说，这根本等于是核子炸弹。他并不认为美国的政治人物会白痴到这个地步，这是巴菲特的说法。一直放话到周四的时候才开始出现了转变。在周四的时候呢，奥巴马同意接受共和党愿意开启暂时解决债务问题的谈判。那么这一次呢，达成的方案就是先提高债线6个礼拜，所以换句话说，我们还有6个礼拜的缓冲时间，但也表示很可能6个礼拜以后，最后倒数1个礼拜，大家就再来恐慌一次。那么这一次呢，是缓冲了6个礼拜，共和党同意不附带任何的条件。
应奥巴马邀请，众议院议长贝纳周四带领20位共和党议员前往白宫与总统会晤。美国预算僵局造成了债务危机出现松动迹象。共和党提出将政府借款权限延长6周，也就是到11月22号的建议方案。双方会谈1个多小时。
We had a very useful meeting. It was clarifying, I think, for both sides as to where we are. And the takeaway from the meeting was our teams are going to be talking further tonight.
A proposal that puts a debt ceiling increase at only 6 weeks tied to budget negotiations would put us right back where we are today in just 6 weeks.
卡尼说，会谈有建设性，但共和党仅延长举债上限6周，届时美国感恩节等重要购物旺季展开。如果危机重演，势必对美国经济带来很大的不确定性。双方必须继续协商。仅仅是嗅到了美国可能免于违约的机会，立刻大幅激励了股市。
Though the government shutdown continues, hopes that lawmakers could reach a deal to temporarily raise the ceiling boosted stocks. At the close, the Dow surged 323 points, the biggest gain of 2013. That index closed at 15,126. The Nasdaq and the S&P 500 rallied 2% each. In the weeks leading
这幅5周来股市如同山峰状的走势图，可以看出美股受到政府关门和债务危机多大的惊吓。共和党的态度似乎软化，和他们承受越来越大的压力有关。不止民调大幅滑落，商界盟友和捐款人也施压，要求不要引发政府违约。华尔街日报和国家广播公司调查，虽然31%的民众指责奥巴马，但更有多达53%的美国人要共和党对目前的局面负责。盖洛普民调显示，共和党目前的支持率在纪录低点28%，比政府关闭前的水准下降10个百分点。民主党支持率略微下滑到43%。不过，共和党目前仍然拒绝无条件的容许政府取得经费重新开门运作。查党人士依旧态度强硬，非要奥巴马健保滚蛋不可。
Obamacare is really, I think, the worst thing that has happened in this nation since slavery.
That will be ultimately known as death care must be defeated. And you see, this is our line in the sand of police state versus constitutional republic. This is it. When the federal government controls your health care, they literally control life and death.
但现在政府关门已经导致国防部无法向每位阵亡士兵的家属发放10万美元抚恤金，不得不由一家私人基金会出面解囊相助。肯塔基一家筹备多时的酒庄威士忌酒开始生产，但由于隶属美国财政部的烟酒税收与贸易局关闭，未能取得产品核准标签，一滴酒都不能卖。美国太空总署不再提供星际间的监测讯息，许多网友恐慌，如果小行星在这段期间造访地球，无法预先得知的话，可能危及人类安全。政府关门也造成美国失业金请领人数大增，创下3个月以来最高。美国财政部表示，10月17号财政部将用尽应急措施，只剩约300亿美元可用资金，这笔钱只够支撑1-2个星期。
Tuesday, I wrote to Congress saying I'd used my last extraordinary measures. I have no more. That means that on October 17th, we'll run out of the ability to borrow. We'll be left with some cash on hand. And I've told Congress it'll be roughly $30 billion. And $30 billion is a lot of money. But when you think about the cash flow of the government of the United States, we have individual days when our negative or positive cash flow is $50 or $60 billion. So $30 billion is not a responsible amount of cash to run the government on.
And a decision to actually go through with it, to actually permit default, according to many CEOs and economists, would be, and I'm quoting here, insane, catastrophic, chaos. These are some of the more polite words.
It ought to be banned as a weapon. I mean, it should be like nuclear bombs. I mean, basically too horrible to use.
美国未偿债务高达12兆美元，是雷曼兄弟破产时积欠5170亿美元的23倍。承诺跳票，该付的钱不付，将造成连锁效应，核弹爆炸式毁灭性冲击。
On the day the United States doesn't have enough money to pay all of its debts, and that first domino falls, difficult choices must be made. Do you spend the money you have on supporting existing programs that people are counting on, like Social Security and the military and the Agriculture Department? Or do you focus more on paying the interest you owe to people who have already loaned the country money to keep operating? Either way, there are consequences that follow, because when those dominoes fall, consumer confidence can fall also, because now people who were counting on that government money aren't getting it. Businesses out there who were counting on those consumers can't anymore. Plus, if they had government contracts, they're not getting those. And all of that makes the stock market nervous, and that kicks it back to the next level of dominoes. Now businesses are saying, we can't add jobs. We can't even support the jobs we have in this environment. Investors say, we're not putting more money into businesses when things are this shaky. That means your 401k and all of your savings become worth less. And if there's anybody in the world who will still loan money to the United States, they're going to say, the risk is too high. We're going to charge much more interest. And that can make it keep rippling all around the world, affecting people everywhere.
We know, and you know by now, that failure to raise the debt ceiling would cause serious damage to the U.S. economy, but also to the global economy as a result of the spillover effect.
美国财政部统计，截至2013年7月，中国是美国最大债主，持有1.28兆美元的美国国债，其次是日本的1.14兆，加勒比海国家以及石油输出国也都有2000多亿美元的债权。
我们要求美方。We ask that the United States earnestly take steps to resolve in a timely way the political issues around the debt ceiling and prevent a U.S. debt default by October 17th to ensure the safety of Chinese investments in the U.S. and the global economic recovery. This is the U.S.'s responsibility.
大陆担心，如果美国违约，将使中国所持有的美国国债大幅减值，并通过重创美元对中国所持的其他在美投资造成损害，连带打击脆弱的全球经济复苏。许多国家都急坏了，偏偏部分共和党人，至少茶党压根不是这么想。共和党议员否认无法提高债务上限的严重性。
I don't think the credit of the United States is going to be collapsed. I think that all this talk about a default has been a lot of demagoguery, a lot of false demagoguery.
诺贝尔经济学家克鲁曼则在《纽约时报》指出，单单是共和党列出对方就范的条件之一，逼迫政府削减支出这一项，就足以把经济推入衰退深渊。由于美国经济陷入衰退，税收将大幅减少，而政府又不能借钱，只好被迫进行第二轮的减支，使经济衰退更加恶化，收入更少，如此恶性循环不已，终至陷入比经济大恐慌更严重的衰退。天真的共和党极右派成员变成克鲁曼笔下的一帮政治蠢货，成功挟持的共和党与国家，因为这些偏激的茶党分子几乎不必担心连任问题。
The question is, those 30 or so Tea Party members and like-minded conservatives who wanted to plant the flag and fight on Obamacare, most of them peers go home to districts where they don't care about that poll because they will get 55, 60, 65%.
随着政府停摆引发债务违约的可能，美国某些最有影响力的企业高层得出一个几年前几乎不可想象的结论：对于花费数百万美元竞选捐款帮助建立和维持的众议院多数党来说，他们的意见似乎无足轻重，迫使企业界不得不与茶党公开作战。纽约时报报道，游说团体正在寻找一种遏制保守主义意识形态崛起的方法。袖手旁观行不通了。
There's two things, of course, happening right now in Washington. One, the government shutdown, which is unfortunate, but that's small potatoes compared to the inability to raise the debt ceiling. So that right now that's the key issue.
美国的信用会不会连同全球的经济前景一起赔上？17号答案揭晓。
很难想象，我们现在讨论的国家叫做美国。美国最著名的、最重要的几个报纸这么形容他自己的国家，《纽约时报》怎么登？国际社会都在问我们：美国仍有采取行动的能力与决心吗？《纽约时报》另外一个标题，他说，华盛顿的政治体制，就是美国 Washington D.C. 的政治体制，现在看起来像 Italy。它有一个永久性的危机，而包括美国的几大银行高盛、Bank of America、美国银行、花旗等19位金融的 CEO 联名要求美国政府一定要结束僵局。那么高盛评估呢，如果美国没有能力在7个礼拜之后准确的赶快解决这个相关的国家问题，而且越晚解决对美国的经济伤害越大， GDP 将损失4.2%左右。但这种数字其实是没有办法量化，因为它冲击的是全球的信心，而美国已经是一而再再而三。关门这件事情呢是16、17年前的事情，但是关于债务这件事情在2011年的8月就已经上演了，而那一回他们是倒数10小时才达成协议。所以《纽约时报》问的问题的确是一个全世界在问的问题：美国，你还是一个令人尊敬的政治体制，你们这些政治人物的脑袋是不是根本完全不存在，只是一群无法合作的机器人呢？
回顾近3年的美股，会发现2011年有一段急跌走势，这正是上回美债危机酿成的后果。
America's credit rating just got clipped.
And pause has downgraded the U.S.'s credit rating.
2011年8月5号，标准普尔把美国主权债信平等从 AAA 调降为 AA+， 使美国痛失拥有近100年的顶级债信平等。当年举债上限14.3兆美元，眼看着8月2号的期限一步步逼近，国会却迟迟不立法调高上限。民主共和两党的意识形态之争绑架了美国的信用。原本相对单纯的财政问题，却在美国濒临违约的危机下成了全球的噩梦。标普伸出重拳，正是对华府政治恶斗最严厉的谴责。
Political brinksmanship of recent months highlights what we see as America's governance and policymaking becoming less stable. This is S&P, less effective and less predictable than what we previously believed. We have changed our assumption on this because the majority of Republicans in Congress continue to resist any measure that would raise revenues.
标普出手，也掀起2008年金融海啸后最混乱动荡的一周。
Yesterday's gains, they were just a mirage. We're watching stocks plunge, chipping away at investor confidence. We are seeing the pace of selling for the Dow pick up steam.
370 points, plunging here. 407, massive plunge, continuing to take this massive plunge.
We're close to 2 times as bad as the worst day we've had this year.
You can see the people standing up there applauding. I imagine a lot of people looking at these numbers at home, not applauding at all.
当天，道琼工业指数暴跌634点，欧股跌幅全在3%以上，全球股市哀鸿遍野。之后，美股继续剧烈震荡。统计从7月初美债危机开始酝酿，到10月初触底，期间道琼跌幅达17%。这场无谓的灾难，让美国人、美国最大债权国中国，还有经济分析师，全都看得一肚子火。
This was a fabricated crisis. This, unlike Italy, unlike Greece, this wasn't imposed by the creditors or imposed by the markets. This was homemade. And there's anger in the streets of the United States as to how can our politicians be so irresponsible?
所谓举债上限究竟是怎么回事？
When the government spends more than it collects in tax revenue, it must borrow to finance the difference. The national debt now stands at $16.7 trillion. That's the total amount the federal government has borrowed through the years to finance cumulative cash deficits.
也就是说，当欠债已达法定上限后，无力还债，必须另外举债以债养债。小布希任内的伊拉克和阿富汗战争，以及奥巴马第1届任内，他手笔纾困银行，并推出振兴经济措施，也使赤字暴增。美国一直靠着举债度日，但过去50年，美国政府调高举债上限将近80次，从来不成问题。但2011年却演成一出惊恐剧，原因就在于共和党内部一小撮极右派分子插党。
The Tea Party has forced Speaker Boehner more to the right. That involves deeper spending cuts and also support for the balanced budget amendment. So they have had disproportionate impact on the entire congressional debate.
这个2010年期中选举窜红的党派人数不多，影响力却巨大。支持小政府的茶党要求大砍联邦预算，坚决反对加税。为了达成预算收支平衡，宁可玉石俱焚。民主政治中的妥协，竟像是脏话一样说不得。民主党虽然也同意赤字爆表的联邦政府必须削减开支，但削减的幅度和方法，两党始终瞧不拢。奥巴马考虑取消现有大企业税率优惠，并对富人加税。共和党则反对一切形式的加税措施。共和党还主张删减医疗保险和社会福利预算。两党各有坚持，僵持多日后，双方火气都像野火燎原。
One of the questions that the Republican Party is going to have to ask itself is, can they say yes to anything?
Negotiations turning nasty. An angry president shoves his chair back and walks out.
And I put revenues on the table in order to try to come to an agreement to avert us being where we are. But a lot of people in this town can never say yes. A lot of people can never say yes. This House has acted. And it is time for the administration and time for our colleagues across the aisle, put something on the table. Tell us where you are.
美国作为全球最强大经济体，美债在金融市场拥有霸主地位，流动性之佳，超过任何一个国家的公债。但一旦债限到期，美国付不出利息本金，也就是违约，后续引发的连锁效应将严重冲击全球经济情势，后果不堪想象。
If Washington operates as usual and can't get anything done, let's at least avert Armageddon.
终于在8月2号，世界经济毁灭前10小时，奥巴马将法案签署成法律，14.3兆的举债上限调高至16.7兆，同时未来10年内必须削减政府支出至少2.1兆美元。美债上限的闹剧暂时告一段落，几周来丑陋的密集协商、政治交易也画下句点。
Ayes are 269, the nays are 161. The bill is passed and without objection. A motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
当然，华府的政争绝不可能就此走入历史。2011年调高美债上限附带的政治条件，又演变成2012年底的财政悬崖危机。而2013年秋季，债限争议的丑陋大戏再次搬上华府的舞台，危机一桩接一桩。
在这一段呢，来介绍2个我们看起来比较令人高兴的女性。第一位呢是奥巴马，在本周希望能够稳定市场信心，在整个债务谈判的时候，预算僵局都没有解决的时刻，立刻在星期3，也就是在这个礼拜，本来股市在大跌的状况里头，宣布将由姚领呢来接任 Bernanke 出任明年1月30号，伯南克任期到了以后，美国联准会的主席。耶伦的人事案呢，目前为止是有500多位的经济学家联署请愿。他们说，美国这些500多位经济学家说，耶伦是整个联邦公开市场委员会，也就是 FOMC 联准会的联邦市场公开委员会里头呢，可以说是最早能够了解到2007年、2008年金融业困境而可能导致经济大衰退的其中一名成员，所以他们觉得他甚至比前任的联准会的主席格里斯班更有远见，因此大家都觉得由他来出任美国联准会下一位主席对全球都是一个好事。那因为她是一位女性，大家更说这个女人可能她有更私密的一些想法， 而且还会更同情一些弱者。当然，我并不觉得性别必然如此。不过，这位女人可能成为全世界未来经济最重要的女性，让很多女人相当高兴。
除了梅克尔、希拉蕊、蜜雪儿·奥巴马等人，全球最具权势的女性如今又多了一人——珍奈特·耶伦。不过，这名字就连美国人也很陌生。
Ever heard the name Janet Yellen?
No, I have not. No, this is the first time. Yes, never heard of her.
奥巴马已正式提名耶伦，如果参议院批准，一头银白短发、67岁的耶伦，2014年2月起将继任退休的联准会主席伯南克，在美国经济复苏的关键时刻接掌这个全球最呼风唤雨的央行，并缔造联准会100年历史中首位女性主席的纪录。
She is a proven leader, and she's tough, not just because she's from Brooklyn. Janet is exceptionally well qualified for this role. She's served in leadership positions at the Fed for more than a decade. As vice chair for the past 3 years, she's been exemplary and a driving force of policies to help boost our economic recovery.
耶伦原本并非奥巴马的首选，奥巴马属意的白宫前经济顾问桑莫斯9月中主动退出角逐。桑莫斯虽然拥有雄厚的专业背景和行政经验，但他和华尔街过从甚密。此外，他在前总统克林顿任内担任财长时，积极推动金融自由化，被认为是导致2008年金融海啸的祸根。就连民主党内部也有多名参议员公开反对桑莫斯。相反的，耶伦则是学界和民主党阵营一致推举的人选，市场对他更是高举双手欢迎。
I think it's a good thing for continuity, Nina. I always felt that Janet Yellen was the best person for the job, given her service at the Fed and given the fact that she is been amongst the architects of the current Federal Reserve monetary policy and the current fiscal stimulus program.
耶伦担任联准会副主席的过去3年内，一直是伯南克的得力左右手。纽约时报报道，当其他联准会官员开始质疑继续扩大已经庞大的激励措施是否还有价值时，耶伦坚定地主张持续量化宽松。时代杂志的全球经济分析师解读，市场最看重耶伦的特质，正是预料他将延续伯南克的宽松路线。
She was someone who has been with the program of asset buying that the Fed has been on for several years now. She was one of the chief architects of this, Ben Bernanke's right-hand woman. So markets are going to feel good about that sense of continuity because as Richard
钻研经济学40多年的耶伦是耶鲁经济学博士，曾在哈佛和伯克莱任教。哥伦比亚大学著名经济学者萨克斯也是耶伦的学生。
She had come from Yale. She was a star student of James Tobin, one of the greatest economists of the 20th century. In the United States, and I felt always privileged to be in her class.
诺贝尔经济学奖得主托宾是凯恩斯的信徒，主张政府扩大支出以减缓经济衰退。耶伦在经济学领域专攻失业的成本和成因。师承托宾的他深切相信，政府尤其央行可以协助减轻失业问题。耶伦也曾担任前总统克林顿时期白宫经济顾问委员会主席，以及旧金山联邦准备银行的总裁。在男性称霸的经济学领域中，耶伦的女性特质让她显得独树一帜。
These are not just statistics to me. We know that long-term unemployment is devastating to workers and their families.
耶伦2010年出任联准会副主席后，便不遗余力地透过货币政策来降低失业率，甚至引来部分议员质疑他控制物价的决心。因为除了促进就业以外，联准会还有另一项重大使命——稳定通膨。耶伦获得联准会主席提名的消息传出后，共和党参议员科克在推特上发文
：“I voted against Vice Chairman Yellen's original nomination to the Fed in 2010 because of her dovish views on monetary policy.”
不过，耶伦广受学界敬重的一大原因，就是他素以判断良好著称。据《华尔街日报》的分析，2009到2012年间，耶伦是所有联准会官员中预测眼光最精准的一位。
She was one of the few who saw the housing crisis coming, warning in 2007, quote, "In terms of risks to the outlook for growth, I still feel the presence of a 600-pound gorilla in the room, and that is the housing sector."
这头怪兽果然兴风作浪，不到2年，刺激贷款风暴就吹垮了房市。参议院至少还需要几星期才会针对叶伦的任命案表决，目前预料过关的几率很高，使他继葛林斯潘和伯南克后，成为全球最有权力的经济决策者。在伯南克任内推动的量化宽松 QE 措施，成功地协助美国从金融海啸的重创中脱困，如今则成了叶伦最大的挑战。
She has to negotiate this exit strategy, and the crucial question then is not when to begin tapering, but when to end tapering.
Getting ourselves out of this major buying spree without having some sort of a crash or a bubble bursting is going to be a major challenge. And if she's confirmed,
国际货币基金 IMF 10月9号警告，如果联准会过早退出 QE 政策，导致市场不理性的剧烈震荡，很可能使全球债市蒙受2.3兆美元的巨额损失。IMF 认为，联准会至少应该等到明年初再开始 QE 解码。奥巴马在宣布叶伦的提名时，也说这项人事案可能是他担任总统任内最重要的经济决策之一。
The past 6 years have been tumultuous for the economy and challenging for many Americans. Well, I think we all agree, Mr. President, that more needs to be done to strengthen the recovery, particularly for those hardest hit by the Great Recession. We have made progress. Too many Americans still can't find a job and worry how they'll pay their bills and provide for their families. The Federal Reserve can help if it does its job effectively.
奥巴马同时利用这场合表彰即将退休的伯南克。
For nearly 8 years, Ben has led the Fed through some of the most daunting economic challenges of our lifetime. At the same time, when faced with potential global economic meltdown, he has displayed tremendous courage and creativity. He took bold action that was needed to avert another depression, helping us stop the free fall, stabilize financial markets, shore up our banks, get credit flowing again.
股神巴菲特也曾多次公开表示，伯南克是他个人最属意的联准会主席人选。不过，伯南克卸任已成定局。
Janet. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
向来强力拥护伯南克激进振兴措施的叶伦，也将在 QE 退场的关键时刻承担重任。
沉稳低调，知名度不高。问起美国的路人知道 Janet Yellen 是谁，大多数的人并不知道。但是她即将成为全世界在经济决策里头最重要的女人之一。唯一跟她可以相提并论的是德国的总理梅克尔。另外一位我们要为大家介绍的是美国每个路人几乎都应该会认得的 Barbara Walters。她在2013年的5月宣布，1年之后，也就是2014年的5月，她即将退休，正式的离开荧光幕。算起来，她总共在美国的电视界总共纵横多少年呢？你难以置信，52年。最近他决定要退休。退休之前呢，他来到了耶鲁大学，对他们进行了一场演讲。这场演讲，他回忆了他一生从事新闻记者工作，作为一位主持人的时候，他最难忘的几位访问过的人物。
一代电视女王芭芭拉·华特斯2013年5月在自己的节目里宣布退休。
A year from now, I plan to retire from appearing on television at all. It has been an absolutely joyful, rewarding, challenging, fascinating, and occasionally bumpy ride, and I wouldn't change a thing.
芭芭拉·华特斯纵横电视圈超过50年，1961年获聘为国家广播公司今日节目撰稿，踏入电视界，后来成为第一位在晨间节目亮相的女主持人。1976年跳槽 ABC 新闻部，年薪100万美元，轰动全美，首开先例，成为晚间电视新闻共同主播。1979年开始共同主持 ABC 2020，访问过尼克森之后的每位美国总统与第一夫人。
Are you sorry you didn't burn the tapes?
Yes, I think so.
他毫不畏惧向世界各国领导人提出尖锐问题。
To ever order anyone killed?
在2020节目长达28年，无数次独家采访，被誉为美国电视新闻第一夫人。1997年，他重心转到The View 谈话性节目，这也成为他电视生涯的据点。
I want instead to sit in a sunny field and admire the very gifted women And okay, some men too, who will be taking my place.
2012年，他向耶鲁大学毕业生发表引起众多掌声和笑声的演说。
A few years ago, I wrote my memoir. It was called Audition, because to me, life has been a continuous audition. And while writing the book, I had to do some research on my family, including my paternal grandmother, Lily, whom I had never met. She was evidently a very elegant and fastidious woman. And on her deathbed, she turned to her 7 children and told them that she was a virgin. And they said, well, how is that possible? We are here, 3 sons and 4 daughters. You must have done something with Grandpa. And she said, yes, I did, but I never participated. So when I was asked if I would come here today to talk with you, I said to myself, these kids are smarter than I am, these kids are younger than I am, they are better educated, but by God, I am going to participate. And I have interviewed world leaders from Fidel Castro to Vladimir Putin, and this past December, Syria's Bashar Assad. So I should know something about leadership and some message that I could give you. But I decided that what I could offer you most today is the wisdom and the stories of some of the most thoughtful people that I have been fortunate enough to talk with over the years. For I think their words, rather than just mine, may help to answer your own questions and your own quest for bliss.
It was an immediate attraction, and it was just a life-changing experience to have met him from day one. From day one. Yeah.
This from an interview with Hillary Clinton in 2005. Your life has been about taking chances and making choices, Mrs. Clinton. What was the biggest choice that you had to make? She said, staying married to my husband. I'm often asked why Bill and I have stayed together. All I know is that nobody understands me better. No one can make me laugh the way Bill does. Even after all these years, he is still the most interesting, energizing, and fully alive person I have ever met. Everyone has a choice every single day about how to live your life. And I know that many people looking at my life would say, oh my goodness, how tough. I look at it differently. I look at the lessons that I've learned, the opportunities that I've had.
Are you a god? No. No?
Today, very day, my eye little irritation. Sorry if I'm God. That should not happen.
You can say, let that go away.
I talked to a great many religious leaders from the different faiths. Most said the purpose of life is to go to heaven or to paradise. The Dalai Lama, however, when I asked, said, the purpose of life is to be happy. And how do you get to be happy? Through compassion, he said, and warm-heartedness. You achieve those qualities in part by abandoning all negative thoughts and feelings of competition. So for about 3 days after the interview, I practiced what the Dalai Lama had taught me. I practiced compassion. I was extremely warm-hearted. I was not jealous. I had no negative thinking. I smiled a lot. I was so warm-hearted, and I was exceedingly boring. But in truth, the Dalai Lama did give me a lot to aspire to. His was not a lesson lost. Compassion and warm-heartedness, so simple and so hard to do. But I've tried to practice both.
What kind of a tree are you? If you think you're a tree now? Oh, everybody would like to be an oak tree.
I said, is it so hard to have it all? The marriage, the children, the career. I said, I think myself, it's very tough. Much of my life has been a balancing act. She said, it's impossible. If I were a man, I would not marry a woman with a career, and I would torture myself as a mother. Suppose little Johnny or little Katie had the mumps and I had an opening night, I'd want to strangle the children. I would really want to strangle the children. And I'd be thinking to myself, God, I've got to get into the mood, and what's the matter with him? And then, out of my way, you see? And I said, if you were a man, you would not marry a woman with a career? She said, I wouldn't be that big a fool. I'd want her to be interested in me, not a career. And a career is fascinating. I don't know what the hell the women are going to do, or the men. So welcome to the life of choices.
I think we should explain to people a little bit about how you talk and how you breathe. There's a respirator that helps you breathe.
Right behind the chair is a respirator which generates air.
In 1995, when his horse failed to jump over a hurdle in a riding competition, the horse fell, he fell with it. And he found himself completely paralyzed from the neck down. This man who had been this adventurer and actor and athlete. And his wife came into him. And she said, Chris, if you want us, we will find the way to pull the plug. And he was lying in bed with the tubes, completely immobile. She said, remember, you are still you, which had two connotations. You are still you, and you are still you. And she left the room. And a doctor came in a white coat with a heavy accent, and the doctor said, I'm a proctologist, turn over. And Reeve looked at this doctor as if he were insane, and the doctor said, I told you, turn over. And as he was about to try to find some way of getting a nurse or someone instead of this crazy doctor, he looked up and he realized it was Robin Williams. He had gone to Juilliard with Robin Williams, and he burst out laughing. And he said, if I can laugh, I can live. These are the words of Christopher Reeve. You gradually discover, as I'm discovering, that your body is not you, and the mind and the spirit must take over. And that's the challenge as you move from obsessing about why me, and it's not fair, and when will I move again, and move into, well, what is the potential? And now I see opportunities and potential I wasn't capable of seeing, because every moment is more intense and valuable than it ever was. And finally, whatever hand you are dealt, I hope you will find the game worthwhile. I do. And really, have I been happier with the hand that I have been dealt than I am today with the honor and pleasure of meeting you. I thank you, and I hope that your life will be like a great white oak. I thank you.
我们曾经陆陆续续为大家制作金砖不在的专题。那么金砖当时所谓金砖四国呢，指的就是中国、印度、巴西以及俄罗斯。而在这四个金砖国家里头，现在垮得最严重的是巴西。巴西过去曾经最有名的富豪，在全球的富比士的全球富豪里头排名到第7号，风光。当时他的身价是345亿。那么他觉得哇，这将来来巴西投资太不得了的，他的人生故事也像传奇一样。那个时候呢是2010年，才没有多久之前。事实上，这些开发中的国家，如果政府的治理是失败的，这些国家很可能从高峰立刻就垮下来。如果治理是成功的，像邓小平或是过去台湾的蒋经国，他可以把一个本来并不怎么样的经济体或是垮掉的经济体一步一步的挽回，甚至拉到一个全球亚洲4小龙的地位。而巴西鲁拉继任的总统，这位总统是他所选的，这位女总统呢，罗塞夫呢，她上台治理之后，第一个形成的情况呢，是政府对于企业的很多错误干预政策。其次呢，他就整个手脚就慌乱掉了，因为他看到物价不断的通货膨胀很严重，于是他就把整个利息、整个利率呢不断的上调，最近还宣布上调到9%。那当然会重伤他的经济，在现在全球经济还这么坏的情况里头，我们刚刚所说的2010年这位全球排行 7名的首富，当时呢，他的财产是345亿美元，现在只剩下9亿美元，刚好是一个缩影。
Michael Batista is here. He is the richest person in Brazil. He may very well become the richest person in the world because of his oil holdings off the coast of Brazil. He has vast holdings in a number of businesses in Brazil. It is an interesting time to talk about him, to talk about Rio de Janeiro, the place that he loves, and also to talk about the Latin American experience. I'm pleased to have him here for the first time.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you for having me.
2010年，巴蒂斯塔接受权威新闻节目主持人 Charlie Rose 的访问，畅谈巴西经验，让全美观众惊艳。他是巴西能源矿业大亨，富比士全球富豪排行第7，身价直逼300亿美元。那年，巴西的经济成长率冲上7.5%，是极少数在金融海啸中还能够维持高成长的经济体，羡煞所有西方国家。巴西的成功和巴蒂斯塔的财富在全球金融版图中相互辉映。
What's your advice to investors? Where should they put their money?
Brazil. I'm betting full on Brazil for the next 10, 20 years.
57岁的巴蒂斯塔崛起的传奇堪称巴西经济发展的缩影。他的父亲被称为巴西矿业之父，奠定巴西能矿工业基础功不可没。母亲是德国人，巴蒂斯塔自小随着父亲工作四处迁徙，待过瑞士、德国和比利时。在德国大学主修冶金术，但满脑子生意欲望驱使他放弃学业，在1980年返乡创业，随后创建了他的 EBX 集团。
Brazil, I learned that the gold rush was going on in the Amazon basin. You know, lots of pick and shovel miners, like in the old Wild West in the United States, California and Alaska. And initially, I started a trading company to buy the gold and sell it. In this process, which took a year and a half, I bought and sold $60 million worth of gold and make a 10% margin, so a net. So there I was with $6 million in my hand.
亚马逊河流域黄金矿藏丰富，让巴蒂斯塔持续获利。但在90年代，随着扩充海外版图相继失利，加上黄金价格暴跌，让他的财富跟着暴起暴落。直到2003年，左派总统鲁拉上任，大兴改革，加上全球兴起另一波原物料商品热潮，让巴西的经济扶摇直上，被投资人誉为金砖4国，国际地位大幅提升。能言善道的巴蒂斯塔又搭上了致富顺风车。EBX 集团旗下在2007年成立了以开采铁矿为主的 MPX 能源公司，还有旗舰 OGX 石油天然气公司，号称在里约热内卢外海发现石油。凭着3寸不烂之舌，向热钱无处去的华尔街投资客吸金。除了贝莱德、Pinko、奇异的注资，甚至阿布达比的主权基金都表示浓厚的兴趣。
The oil story is a $1 trillion story right in front of us here.
What do the offshore oil discoveries do for Brazil? What do they mean for the country's future?
Oh, it means, we should be producing in excess of 6 million barrels a day. So it put us among the third, fourth largest producer in the world, massive exporter.
巴蒂斯塔攀登了事业的巅峰，好语言犹在耳。但鲁拉在2010年风光卸任后，接替的罗塞夫上任不过2年，经济就开始迅速走下坡，公共建设停滞不前，社福品质低落，官场腐败严重。随着最大出口国中国对原物料需求放缓，导致经济成长疲软。2011年经济成长率跌至2.7%，2012年更剩下0.9%，货币贬值，通膨高达6%。2013年6月，各行各业上百万群众走上街头，爆发巴西史上最严重的抗争。 这个星期，连为人师表者都加入抗议，甚至和军警爆发冲突。
Torço por essa manifestação unificada. Nós temos que nos unir para destruir esses corruptos. Nós não temos políticos, nós temos ladrões, vagabundos, canalhas.
随着巴西10年经济荣景泡沫化，标志巴西成功经验的巴蒂斯塔命运跟着开始下滑。原本夸下海口的石油蕴藏量，事后发现油井钻滩成果不如预期。2010年预估日产100万桶，2012年实际产出只有15000桶，2013年6月只剩下5000桶。投资人信心溃散 ，OGX 股债狂跌，股价从2010年23里尔的高点跌剩不到2毛钱。
I mean, he made a very big, bold bet on the Brazilian economy, and he did it very aggressively, and it just didn't pan out. The oil that he said he was going to be pulling from the seas didn't come. The price of gold is going down. The price of iron is going down. He's pretty much getting caught in a squeeze, and the creditors are coming after him.
巴蒂斯塔345亿美元的身价严重缩水，剩下9亿美元，还负债累累，彻底被甩出富比士富豪榜外。这个星期传出 OGX 无力偿付4500万的利息，打算宣告破产。巴西梦的最佳代言人暂告幻灭。
It's partly a story of Brazil falling out of favor with investors, but it's really a story of someone who made really big promises and priced everything to perfection and then failed to deliver on it.
巴蒂斯塔成了短命富豪，伴随着巴西昙花一现的经济神话。巴西央行这个星期宣布今年以来第4度调升利率，抑制通膨，但这势必会进一步伤害经济的成长。巴西还会再东山再起吗？全世界的人都在密切观察。
我们来看一下本周的上证指数。虽然本周中国大陆公布的一些相关数据不是非常的理想，但是上证指数在本周仍然上涨了2.46%，主要是对自贸区的相关的一个期待。那么在今年6月，中国大陆爆发所谓的银行钱荒的时刻，当时全球的经济学家很多人都预测中国今年很难保住经济成长率7.5%，最终现在大家都觉得中国进行了它的很重要的调控政策，认为今年中国有机会经济成长率高达7.7%，同时认为马上来的第18届在11月要召开的3中全会将是整个中国经济跟中国股市最重要的指标。非常谢谢大家收看今天的文茜世界财经周报，下礼拜见，拜拜。